You know what's funny? I was just scrolling through my feed the other day, coffee in hand, half paying attention, and then I saw it. A bike that, on the surface, doesn't look like much. A little retro, a little tame even, but the more I dug in, the more I realized Honda just lit a match and casually tossed it into the gasoline-soaked rag that is the modern naked bike scene. And honestly, almost nobody's noticed yet. This isn't about straight-line speed. It's not about being a hooligan machine or some kind of widowmaker. No, the real danger here is way more subtle. See, what this little monster threatens to do is single-handedly dismantle this whole trendy obsession with twins and triples that's been dominating the middleweight class for years now. And it's dragging the Inline-Four, an engine layout everyone swore was too expensive to build small, right back into the fight. The bike? Honda's CB350 Four. And by the time we're done here, you'll see exactly why Honda's competitors are, shall we say, less than thrilled about its existence. Furious, even, if the rumors are true. Alright, let's just rip the band-aid off and address the elephant in the room, because Honda definitely wants you to make this comparison. Way back in '72, they rolled out the original CB350 Four, the CB350F. At the time, it was the tiniest production four-cylinder bike ever made, full stop. Was it a rocket? Nope. Was it particularly useful? Debatable. But what it did do, and this is key, was prove that Honda could take that silky, howling magic of the CB750's four-banger, shrink it down into something lighter and more affordable, and still keep the soul intact. That intangible zing that made those early fours so special. That bike had a short run though. A couple years, then poof, gone. These days, it's mostly a trivia answer, sandwiched between the legendary CB750 and the CB400F that everyone actually remembers. Fast forward to now, Honda just yanked that name out of the archives, and this time, they didn't come to play. Here's the deal, and I'll keep it snappy because I know your time's valuable. In 2026, the small-bore four-cylinder space is an absolute war zone. Kawasaki's ZX4RR is out there causing chaos. Bimota just jumped in with the KB399. Even Chinese manufacturers are muscling their way in with middleweight fours that a decade ago would have seemed impossible. And Honda, the godfather of this whole segment, looked at all that noise and essentially said, "Cute. Now watch." So they dusted off a name that's been gathering dust for half a century and built a brand new sub-350cc four-cylinder retro roadster from the ground up. Now let's get into the meat of it. What's actually hiding under that tank? Underneath that pretty retro skin sits a liquid-cooled 349cc 16-valve DOHC Inline-Four. Yep, you read that right. 349cc. Not a rounding error. Honda specifically engineered a brand new block to squeak right under that 350cc mark. And why does that matter? Well, in places like Japan, Southeast Asia, and parts of Europe, that little number unlocks huge advantages in taxes, insurance, and licensing. For us in the US, it means you get the sound and character of an exotic race bike without the exotic price tag or the intimidation factor. Perfect for a newer rider stepping off a twin and wanting something with a little more theater. Power-wise, we're looking at 49 horses at a screaming 11,500 RPM with about 25 pound-feet of torque peaking at 9K. And look, I get it. If you're used to liter bike numbers, that sounds like a sneeze. But you're missing the point. This isn't about peak numbers. It's about how it delivers them. A torquey twin gives you everything down low and then just farts out. This little screamer, it builds and builds, wanting you to chase that red line all the way to the limiter. It rewards effort. It's an engine for people who actually enjoy shifting, not just twisting and going. And speaking of riding, here's a fun little curveball. I can already hear some of you old-school purists grumbling, but does it have a real clutch? Yes, and also no. Honda's thrown their new e-clutch system on this thing. Basically, you get a standard 6-speed gearbox and a lever if you want full manual control, but you can also just ignore the lever entirely. The bike handles clutch engagement for starts, stops, and shifts automatically. It's not a scooter CDT, don't worry. It's a real manual that just gives you the option to be lazy. And honestly, in stop-and-go traffic, I wouldn't hate it. Suspension?
upside-down KYB fork up front, preload adjustable shock out back. Brakes, radially mounted Nissan calipers with ABS from Astemo, Honda's own tech arm. For this price point, that's some seriously premium gear, the kind of stuff you'd expect on a bike costing a few grand more if I'm being honest. Now, the part everyone likes to fight about in the comments: styling. Honda went full retro roadster, and it shows. Round headlight, exposed engine with those 4 header pipes on full display, because let's be real, they earned the right to show those off. A low, flat tank with classic pinstripes, and a tail that echoes the old 70s Fours without looking like a costume. It's respectful of its heritage, but it's not a museum piece. It's retro in that I'd park this outside a hipster coffee shop and not feel like a poser kind of way. But inside that old-school shell, it's all modern. 5-inch TFT display with smartphone connectivity for maps and notifications, LED everything. And get this, they actually tucked a little storage cubby into the bike, big enough for a wallet, a phone, or your keys. Small touch, but honestly, it's the kind of thoughtful detail most manufacturers overlook in this class. I appreciate that. So, the million-dollar question: what's this going to set you back? If Honda's pricing for their other 26 four-cylinder retro models is any indication, expect the CB350 Four to land somewhere in the $7,000 to $7,500 range in the US. That puts it right in the ZX4RR's crosshairs and squarely against the incoming wave of small-bore fours flooding the market. For a brand-new, component-packed Inline-Four, that's a deliberate, aggressive move, no question. But, and here's where I need you to pump the brakes, here's the catch. Despite looking production-ready, despite having a full instrument cluster, finished paint, and spec sheets detailed enough for Kawasaki's engineers to sweat, Honda hasn't actually confirmed it. No timeline, no final US availability, no official price. Right now, it's classified as a concept, but Honda's got this little dance they do. They show off a bike that's basically ready to roll, slap a concept badge on it, parade it around trade shows to gauge reactions, and then, if the internet collectively loses its mind, they quietly greenlight production a few months later. We've seen this exact playbook with their other 26 four-cylinder revivals. Concept first, trademark second, full reveal third. This thing is sitting at step 1. So, is it actually coming to the States? Honestly, the signs are better than they've been in years. Demand is there, competition from Kawasaki and Bimota are forcing their hand, and the patent filings, they almost always show up months before the official announcement. If you want to be the first to know when Honda finally flips that switch, you'd be smart to keep an eye on this channel. We're tracking every filing, leak, and show appearance like hawks. And hey, speaking of bikes that fans basically bullied Honda into building, I've got another one lined up that follows this exact same story. Click that video on your screen, and I'll walk you through it next.